Christmas was so much better as a child. I remember as a kid it was a month-long buildup of excitement and serotonin. It couldn't come soon enough. As an adult, dude, it's what, 13 days away, and I couldn't have told you that if I didn't have that sign behind me. Also, as a kid, you didn't have to buy anybody anything. You're young right now, and you don't have to buy gifts for anybody, and you're like in school, and you have a big tree in your living room with a bunch of presents underneath that you stare at every single night. Enjoy that time, man, because it's not gonna last forever. Anyway, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video and welcome to my Week 14 NFL reaction. These videos go without explanation at this point, so a couple plugs and we'll hop into it. 1, head over to gfuel.com, use code WyattzWorld, save yourself a discount on any G Fuel products. 2, if you're 18 years or older, you can head over to Prize Picks, the daily fantasy app where code WyattzWorld will match up to $100 of your first deposit. And lastly, if you guys are trying to hook your parents up with some cool, unique, affordable gifts for this holiday season, head over to parentpresents.com. The link will be in my bio. The gift ideas are mainly all off of Amazon too, guys. It makes Christmas shopping so easy. Not like you're making an account on a foreign website or anything. It's Amazon. Click, click, complete. Anyway, I'm done talking now. Let's get into my Week 14 reactions. Okay, so starting off Week 14, on Thursday we had the Raiders at the Rams. I finally had faith in the Raiders, and what did I get? An L. A game that should have been so easy for this red-hot team to win, and they failed. I mean, their defensive front certainly wasn't absent. They had 3 sacks. Josh Jacobs had 27 carries for 99 yards and a touchdown. Devontae had 3 receptions for 71 yards. You know, their offense was moving too. They just couldn't win. Rams, on the other hand, weren't that substantial until the end. I said I thought they'd get some garbage time touchdowns, which they kinda did, but it's not really garbage time when you win the game. Baker actually did very well for only being in that system for like 14 hours. Cam Akers again got a touchdown, but he can't seem to get anything actually moving with his legs. The leading receiver of the day was Ben Skoranek with 7 receptions for 89 yards, followed by Chatarius Atwell, who had 5 for 50, and their defense had 2 interceptions. Offensively, neither team looked great, but somehow the Rams still won with a quarterback who was literally there for less than 2 days. All right, next game is the first Sunday game, the Vikings and the Lions, and oh my God, the Vikings lost. Not that the Lions are bad, but how did Vegas know? First off, the crazy thing about this game is that Kirk Cousins was absolutely elite. 31 for 41, 425 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. Another thing about this game, Justin Jefferson, 11 receptions for 223 yards. I have not heard anybody talk about that once. That is an enormous game. But that's kind of where it ends for Minnesota. Dalvin Cook, even though he had a rushing touchdown on the ground, was horrible. And the defense could not stop anything. Flipping over to the Lions side of things, we have Jared Goff, who is just proving time and time again that he is still a fantastic quarterback if given the proper weapons and protection. Rushing was all over the place. Nobody was really fantastic, which is weird to see. But the receiving is where it absolutely killed us. DJ Chark was the leading receiver, 6 for 94 and a touchdown. St. Brown had 6 for 68. Josh Reynolds had 5 for 51 and a touchdown. Jamison Williams had 1 for 41 and a touchdown, where there was nobody within a mile of the man. I was in the midst of traveling and picking up my dog while this game was going on, and I was listening to the Bills game, of course. But from what I saw and from the box score, it looks like Detroit just absolutely kicked the shit out of Minnesota. Next game was the Ravens at the Steelers, and wow, I'm 0 for 3 on my picks. Ravens pulled it off somehow, some way. As you can see, combined passing, they were barely over 100 yards and had 0 touchdowns. Rushing between 6 different guys, they had 1 touchdown, and it was J.K. Dobbins, who had a fantastic day, by the way. Receiving obviously didn't do anything because the passing was so little, but the defense is what really, I think, carried them in the end. And I'm not gonna act like I watched this game, but as you can tell, 2 sacks, 3 interceptions, that's a lot of extra possessions and a lot of extra time Baltimore had the ball. Also, there's the other 10 points I was curious about. It's Justin Tucker kicking 3 field goals and obviously the extra point. Looks like the Ravens played hard and they played good. Steelers, on the other hand, not so much. Something happened with Kenny Pickett. Mitch Trubisky entered the game. He was horrible, throwing 1 touchdown and 3 interceptions. Najee Harris is back to his old ways of being dog shit. Nobody was a good rusher that day besides Kenny Pickett's 2 carries, which might have been the reason he was hurt, honestly. Receiving was interesting. Deontay Johnson had 6 for 82. Pickens was 3 for 78. Freiermuth was 3 for 33, but they only got 1 touchdown out of all that. Also, their defense looked pretty lousy aside from Minkah Fitzpatrick getting 6 tackles and TJ Watt getting a sack, which is, you know, usual. Next up, we had the Browns at the Bengals. Deshaun Watson threw his first passing touchdown in 707 days, but they still lost. Notable performances here are Donovan Peoples-Jones, who had 8 receptions for 114 yards. That's completely out of pocket. And Nick Chubb had another notable low performance, 14 carries for 34 yards. What did I tell you guys last week? The Bengals D is a lot better than Houston's D. The run game wasn't going to work like it did. Looking at the Bengals, Joe Burrow had 239 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. Mixon bounced back from his injury in the best way possible, carrying the ball 14 times for 96 yards. Receiving was really interesting. Jamar Chase had 10 receptions for 119 yards and a touchdown, which is, expected, but I don't see Tyler Boyd or T. Higgins on here. Well, here's Tyler Boyd way at the bottom, but I wonder if T. Higgins was hurt. Either way, Joe found a way with Trent Irwin. And lastly, their defense was pretty wild too. Well, it's mainly just their run D and Logan Wilson, who had 14 tackles. Also, Jesse Bates had a pick. Nice. All right, moving on to the next game, we had the Jets at the Bills. We'll peek at the Jets first. Mike White had a very rough day. Not rough in the passing realm of things. He didn't turn the ball over, but he had a tough day in the sense of just getting hit over and over again. He got taken out, I think, twice for injuries. Zonovan Knight had a decent day, 17 carries for 71 yards and a touchdown. Receiving did reasonably okay. Garrett Wilson had 6 for 78. Elijah Moore was 6 for 60, but that Buffalo defense wasn't going to let him score. Talked about it last week, and they did it again. They're playing violent. They're playing physical. They're playing aggressive. Now, looking at Buffalo, for those who missed it, Josh Allen had another human highlight reel play. After hurdling a man, he got decked in midair, did like a somersault, and still kept the ball and got the first down. On top of that, he had a rushing touchdown, and he threw for 147 yards and a passing touchdown. Receivers were weird. Dawson Knox led with 41 yards and a touchdown, and then we had Diggs and Davis below him with 37 yards and 31 yards. Under that, we had Isaiah McKenzie, who, by the way, I'm starting to kind of like a little bit less. He seems to drop a ball once a game now in a crucial spot, and that needs to stop. But we won, so I'll let it slide. And back on their defense, Greg Russo logged in 2 sacks. He's playing like Von Miller's offspring. Matt Milano's continuing to play like the best linebacker in football. Taron Johnson had 7 tackles. The team remains undefeated with Jordan Poyer playing. Shaq Lawson even had a sack. The returning Bill. They're feeling it, man, and it's coming at the right time. New York thought they had our number. All right, moving on to the next game. It is Houston at Dallas, and Houston actually had the lead the entire time until the very end, which is the only part of this game I watched. Looks like Dameon Pierce was okay, 22 carries for 78 yards and a touchdown. Chris Moore had 10 receptions for 124 yards. Amari Rodgers had a touchdown. I mean, this might have been the best offensive day I've seen from Houston in 4 years. Also, their kicker had 11 points, and Tremon Smith picked off Dak twice. Looking at the Dallas side of things, like I said, Dak was kind of due for a little bit of a regression. This is the trend he's been on. He wasn't awful, they still got the win, but passing, he was definitely off. However, it doesn't matter when their running game committee still continues to be probably the best in football. Zeke and Pollard both averaging 4 yards a carry and getting a touchdown. Receiving was all over the place. Dalton Schultz led with 6 for 87. There was only 1 receiving touchdown, who was the running back, Tony Pollard. And then their defense, which was obviously their weak spot of the game, but they still got it done. It's a good thing Brett Maher got him 9 points because they needed every single one of them. Dallas, you escaped an absolute embarrassment. Speaking of embarrassment, we got the Eagles at the Giants. I'm sorry, New York, but what the hell is going on with you guys? We didn't expect you to beat Philly, but you got destroyed by him, and you have now lost, I think, what, 3-4 games in a row? Actually, sorry, it's only 2 because he had a tie. Regardless, they got absolutely steamrolled. Jalen Hurts, 217 passing yards, 2 touchdowns. He also had 77 rushing yards and a rushing touchdown, because why the hell not? On top of Jalen's rushing, we had Miles Sanders, who carried the ball 17 times for 144 yards and 2 touchdowns, and Boston Scott, who carried it 6 times for 33 yards and another touchdown. What is the run D here, or is Philly's run offense just that good? But it doesn't end there. A.J. Brown, 4 receptions, 70 yards and a touchdown. Devontae Smith, 5 receptions, 64 yards and a touchdown. This is just a repeating thing every week with Philadelphia. I feel like their entire team scores. Looking at the New York side of things, it's a little bit odd. I'm not sure what happened or why Tyrod Taylor got involved, but it looks like he did really good. 5 for 5, 47 passing yards and a touchdown. And then Daniel Jones, who didn't look like he did that bad either. He threw the ball 169 yards for a score and ran the ball 4 times for 26 yards and another score. Receiving, Richie James was the leader this week. I think you can just pick names out of a hat and you have a better chance at guessing who's going to be the leader. Oddly, I do want to shout out their defense. They got destroyed through the air and on the ground, but they sacked Jalen Hurts 4 times. So at least you guys had that going for you. Next up, we had the Titans at the Jags. I was wrong on this one, of course, like I think 95% of America was. Trevor's a dog. What can I say? Absolutely lit him up. ETN didn't do shit. Anybody who started him in fantasy is fuming and you have every right to be. But anybody who is smart enough to start Trevor, you guys are jumping with joy. 368 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 turnovers. On top of a rushing touchdown for the guy. He is the next coming of Josh Allen. Also, Evan Ingram, 11 receptions, 162 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Might owe him an apology sooner than later. Peeking at the Titans, the only notable performance really of the day is Derrick Henry, if you ask me. He had 17 carries for 121 yards and a touchdown. Sucks they lost because it's just another Derrick Henry performance wasted, but you can still appreciate greatness when it's in front of you. Looks like their defense was pretty silent. If it wasn't for the 2 passing touchdowns to 2 guys I've never heard of, Nick Westbrook and whoever this guy is, this game would have been an absolute blowout. Which, honestly, I think it kind of was. I didn't watch it. Next up, we have Kansas City at the Broncos, and I told you I felt something in the air, but not this. Not a shootout. In the second quarter, it was 27-0. By 5 minutes into the third, it was 27-21. Mahomes got picked off 3 times. There was not a rushing touchdown on the team. The leading receiver, Jerick fucking McKinnon, 7 receptions, 112 yards, and 2 touchdowns. What? Luckily, their defense had 6 sacks and 2 picks or whatever the hell it was. And Harrison Butker, of course, could kick them 10 points because if it wasn't for it, they would have lost to the Broncos. Looking at the Broncos, Russ actually had a pretty good day. 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. Brett Rippon even had a passing touchdown. Not sure if Russ got hurt or what. I'm not going to lie, I was playing a video game. But 4 passing touchdowns with Nathan Hackett as your head coach, that's historical. Rushing game was kind of bland, but their receiving was about as insane as Kansas City's. Jerry Jeudy had 3 touchdowns, and then the second leading receiver on their team, Marlon fucking Mack. 60 receiving yards and a touchdown. He's another running back who hasn't been relevant since 2017. Also, the Denver defense picked off Mahomes 3 times like we already said. Josie Jewell was 2 of them and Pat Surtain was 1. Sadly, it just wasn't enough. Next game we got is the Panthers at the Seahawks. Another one I got wrong. That's an ongoing trend this week. I did really bad. But who saw this coming? The Panthers shutting down the machine, Geno Smith? Not apologizing to Sam Darnold for shit. He did better than I thought he would, but he's still garbage. It's the rushing in Carolina that got him past this game. They absolutely murdered Seattle on the ground. What is it, 210, 220 yards damn near? Leading receiver was Laviska Shenault because it's week 14, so why the hell not? And their defense was actually kind of cool to see because both J.C. Horn and C.J. Henderson had a pick. J.C. Horn's a young stud. C.J. Henderson's a guy that I honestly think was given up on a little bit too early. All right, actually, before we go, let's check the kicker. I'm sure he had 10 points. Yeah, 12. What the fuck? Flipping over to the Seattle side of things, Geno, he did throw 2 picks, but he had 3 touchdowns, so there is a positive inside of that. Run game got bullied, and the receivers were alive. 3 touchdowns between them, but we have to talk about who the leading receiver is, because just making week 14 as weird as possible, this time it's Marquise Goodwin. I'm officially labeling this week the draft bust from Christmas past. Kinda sucks Seattle lost though. 3 receivers with a touchdown. Makes Geno look good too for anybody who wants to, say he's terrible for having 2 picks. All right, second to last, the Buccaneers at the 49ers, and when you're playing Thanos, you can't really do much. Offense put up 7 total points, which came from Russell Gage. Defense got obliterated, allowing 35 points, for God's sake. The Buccaneers laid down and just got ran over for 3 hours. But that's good because the game was rigged last week and you guys got a free win, so you deserve it. And San Francisco continues to be absolutely bulletproof. McCaffrey carried the ball 14 times for 119 yards and a score. Debo ran it for a score but got hurt. Brock Purdy ran in for a score. Receivers were kind of slow but not bad. There was 2 receiving touchdowns, and I think the reason for it being slow is because they didn't have a lot of faith in Purdy at first. But as the game went on, they kind of realized, hey, we might have another guy. For those who didn't know, Purdy completed 16 for 21, 185 yards and 2 touchdowns. Played really good against a good defense. Dre Greenlaw had 10 tackles and a pick. That you don't see very often. Defense didn't allow Tampa to run. They didn't allow him to pass. It was the murder of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And the final game, it was Sunday Night Football. We got the Dolphins losing to the Chargers. Sorry, Miami, but I'm happy. I'm so happy. Tua had probably the worst game he's had since his rookie season. Didn't turn the ball over, but he was missing. I mean, that guy couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat. The run game was pretty absent. They got bullied around. Tyreek Hill made some miracles happen. He had 4 receptions, 81 yards, and a receiving touchdown. Also had a fumble recovery touchdown. And that was basically the supply of Miami's points, because without Tyreek here, they would have had probably 0. Now, their defense did sack Herbie 4 times, but that almost becomes obsolete when Justin Herbert was playing how he was yesterday, and that's like a 99 overall quarterback in Madden. 39 for 51, 367 yards and a touchdown. He was making flip passes, no look passes, cross body passes. He was doing everything. Mike Williams had 6 receptions, 116 yards and a touchdown. By the way, one of his touchdowns was absolutely insane. Keenan had 12 receptions for 92 yards. Eckler had 8 receptions for 59. Palmer had 4 for 53. I mean, this was an aerial assault. And their defense also they played lights out. Other than the Tyreek slip up and the one play that they were caught completely off guard with the fumble, this team was playing like perfect D. Hard-earned victory for you, LA. I'm happy for you. And most importantly, thank you so much for taking care of those mean fish. Alright guys, and that is going to be all for my reactions to week 14 of this NFL season. I hope you guys liked this video. If you did, you already know what to do. Comment, like, subscribe, turn that bell on. I do my best to post on this channel every single day. With everything I just said, I'm going to hop off and get this edited so you can watch it on time. I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your week, and as always, I will see you in the next video.